Line 2 webinar today. Thank you for joining. My name is Joel Werfel, and I am an account manager here at SkillForge. You probably received the email from me inviting you to the webinar, so again, thank you for taking the time to attend. With me on the line is Donna Bloomberg, who is one of the trainers here at SkillForge, who teaches not only Articulate Storyline, but also several other classes. And Donna, you can probably give a better list than I can, but she teaches some of the other e-learning, kind of e-learning development tools that we offer, as well as RoboHelp, quite a few of the.
As Joel said, this is a very popular one. I'm also, by the way, very familiar with Adobe's Captivate, and they are very comparable in what they can do. They just have very different approaches to doing this. Storyline absolutely is a very popular one. It works very nicely with PowerPoint videos, so you can create a wide variety of interactive e-learning modules within Storyline 2. And so we're going to take a quick look at the interface, and we'll look at a finished module. And this is actually the one that we create in the class. Then we'll go back through and start digging in under the hood to see how to do that. When you first open Storyline, this is what you see. And not a whole lot to it, but will change very quickly here. We have Storyline creates slides, and with those slides can be split into scenes. So here, scenes generally are topic by topic. That's totally up to the designer or developer when you want to create a new scene, but that will have one or more slides in there here. With that, just double click to open it, because here's the actual story view of the whole, similar to the slide deck in PowerPoint or Captivate. Here is the actual slide itself. So here I can easily insert additional objects here. Of course, there's text boxes, there's even captions, which I can simply choose whatever caption I want here and start typing in it, which I will add something here too. Another popular and very powerful feature of Storyline that goes way beyond PowerPoint is the timeline down here, because PowerPoint, the interface initially looks a lot like PowerPoint. I'm sorry, did I say Storyline looks a lot like PowerPoint here, but it goes well beyond. So I'll be showing a little bit of the differences in both areas here. So here's the first caption. I'll add another one. I'll just make it a little different to show what you can do with these. And yet a third one here, different shapes just for fun, though you would probably want to be more consistent in your actual project here. So for that, notice I have the three of them down captions here. Then down here, they're in the slide. This shows how many seconds the slide will display. This is, each object has its own line on the timeline. You can control when you want them to display. So here, we'll work with this. This by itself is pretty boring. Let's add a character, give it a little more interest. Here they have a number of illustrated characters here. This all comes directly with Storyline. You can certainly buy, or there are some free ones which you can download, which I can, in the class I definitely do give information about that, the additional resources. Oh, we'll go with this lady here. An amazing variety of poses and so forth available for especially for these illustrated characters. For the pose, all of the characters have the same poses possible. For where are your hands? Are you standing, sitting, holding something? If you're holding a sign, you can easily put some text on that. Again, to give it a little more interest. Sitting at a desk, even in a wheelchair, which is good. Here, we'll just use this current pose here. Now, expressions. This is one of the things that really impressed me about Storyline when I first started learning about it. Just a wide variety of expressions here, which you can change as you wish. during the presentation, just whatever is appropriate. So here we'll just leave her like this. I'm going to have her display the whole time, and see, here is how the timeline works. So I'm just going to do a quick preview of only this slide here. Okay, so you can see how the various objects displayed one at a time. Had I so chosen, I could have had them disappear one at a time. I can add all sorts of animation effects, exactly like PowerPoint. So most e-learning designers, instructional designers, are very familiar with PowerPoint. You have a step up if you are familiar with that. The animations here are for the specific objects. Fade, grow, fly in, float in, split. I teach PowerPoint as well, so this is very similar, but if you're not familiar with PowerPoint, no worries. The book assumes that you are not, so we do walk it through step by step. The transitions here are more at the slide level. Okay, so for this, if I want to, I can insert a PowerPoint slide or an entire deck of slides from PowerPoint. I would just choose next slide. So here on the import screen, there's PowerPoint and other options. We'll focus on PowerPoint for now. Here, this particular slide deck just has 2 slides in it. There's credit score, eCoach, and then intro, and then the actual introduction slide. I just want to insert this one. I'm not going to actually click import right now just to save some time, but this is the actual slide. You can see that it has a certain background and so forth. I can easily change that to match my own chosen background once I have imported it. Where do I want to insert it? It will be on a new slide, but I can have that slide in the current scene or a new scene. It's totally my choice, whichever I want. Here's for the template. There are a variety of templates available. Again, more are available online for download for free or purchase. The basic downloads, or excuse me, the basic layouts of Articulate slides are similar to those of PowerPoint, where you have title and content or title only, but then again it goes beyond when you get into your question slides with that. For quizzing slides, you have a variety of types. There are graded questions where you actually want to score if that is what you need to do. There are a variety of question types available in the scoring or graded slides: true, false, multiple choice, multiple response, fill in the blank, word bank, and so forth. If you're not sure what one is, you could just take a look over here. You can see the information. Survey, a completely separate list of slides available, slide types. Free forms, just that. You can drag and drop, pick one, and so forth. A lot of flexibility here. You can have banks of questions with this where, and of course there are none set up here, but let's say if you have 10 or 15 possible questions and you only want to include about 3 or 4 of them, you can pull from the question bank. You can set it up to where they will randomly display. If a user retakes that quiz multiple times, they'll see different questions. Total control with that. Then it gets into the screen recordings. As far as Articulate itself, Storyline works, you can record your screens, which is what you would want to do if you're teaching somebody how to use a software program, say Microsoft Excel, or it could be your own internal customized program. We will take a look at that more in depth at the end. Then again, there is the import. Okay, so that's just a quick look at the general interface of Storyline here. Let's take a look at the actual finished project. And this is the one in the book. I'm going to restart it here. You can insert video into Storyline projects here, and it comes along with audio. She just walked on and said, "Welcome to today's training presentation." Okay, there's a little bit of audio here saying, type your name, then you can continue. Okay, so I'm typing my name here. I click continue, and it does move on. Now, these are the slides. I just need to mute this so I'm talking over it. Right here on this slide, there is some audio. Also, you see there are transitions. Hello, PowerPoint again coming through with that. Then when we're done, it moves on to the next slide. Here's my name that I typed in from the previous slide. We'll see how that works. That's called the variable. We'll get into that. Now, I'm just doing a preview on my own screen here within Storyline. This is the way, if I was getting ready to publish the project, this is what I would be doing. This is an actual web page here. It's just telling me the web object is unavailable during preview. That's fine. Okay. Here is another really cool thing about what Storyline can do. And it's really easy once you understand how it works. And this is one of the things in the class we go into in depth. Factors that affect your credit score. You must click every button below before you continue. Notice down here, there's a previous button, there's not a next. Okay, I'm going to click here. Shows some information. Comes back here. I can come back here to see it again back and forth as I want. Notice as I hover over it, it changes. This is called a state. Click. Okay, it displays that information. Come down here. I can click them in any order. It's going to display. Still previous only. Now as I click the final slide, now the next display, so I can continue on to the next slide. Here is one of the animated characters, illustrated characters rather. He has a rather neutral expression. Well, if I click over here, high debt to credit ratio, no, he's not so happy. Consolidate debt, that's good. He's smiling. Close zero balance, not good. Pay on time is. So his expressions are changing based on what I type. So as I click one of these slides, I am activating a trigger, which causes him to change his expression. Okay, next. So here, this is the model of an actual person that is available. We'll take a look at her in a while. She's holding this, just a blank sign, but if I click this, this is an example of a screen recording. I went to an actual screen, and you can see as the mouse is moving, just clicking around to fill in everything there. Now this particular one, it was designed to show on the single slide and as a movie. So if I click someplace, it's not going to register. But we'll go through that. You go all the way down to the bottom, and then we'll eventually click Calculate My Credit Score, and it will show the result. And then we're done. Okay, so we're about there, so I'll just wait and let it show the Calculate My Credit Score. Okay, so there's the result. And I'm going to close that. So here we'll move on to the next. Here's another really good example of what it can do. A knowledge game here. Find all 5 choices that increase credit score. So you're testing. Notice down here it starts at 0. And these are a few things I want to point out. We'll look at the how to do this in a little bit here. Diversify credit types. Okay, I click that one. That's good. Decrease this one. That's good. If I say limit credit score inquiries, also good. So each time I click those, they're adding a point. If I say apply for new credit card, no, not so good. That's a -1. If I come back and click diversify credit types again, it ignores it. I'm only allowed to click it one time and have it register. All of that is built in. We go through this in detail. So I'll just show, okay, and John's credit score errors. Okay, it's whatever. I'm not going to click that one because I know that's not good. So my final score ended up as 2. Next, okay, a little bit more audio, just narration. You can create narration inside Storyline, or you can do it separately and then have it imported in. Both ways work. Okay, notice over here, this is a menu. I have complete control over what is in the menu. I've added this at the top. So here are some questions. Again, one question per slide. I'm just going to pick one at random. submit. It lets me know, did I do it correctly or not? In this case, no. All right. And these are the default displays and replies of you did not select the correct response. You could completely customize that. Okay, kind of a mix and match or find which one it is. Again, I'm not trying to go for the correct. So it's, nope, that's not right. Here's another one. These items here, the payment history types of credit clipboards, those are just little image files that were brought in. So what we did here then is, this is just drag and drop. Let's see what happens here. I'd like to see if I can get at least one of these correct. Nuts, I did not get that. I'll say yes, true for that one because I think that's the case. Yes, that worked. Okay, those are the questions, some of the types of questions you can create. Well, shoot, I did not pass. Let's see, what did I get wrong? Okay. This is what I selected. This is the correct answer. So you go through and you can see that for each of them. If it lets you know if you got it incorrect, and it will show you what the correct is there for that. Okay. So I'm doing this in preview. If I'm thinking, okay, this is good, it works out all right here, I can come in and publish for this. When I want to publish, there are several choices I need to make here. For the web, absolutely, you can publish this to a website. You give it the name here and so forth. Articulate storyline does include an SWF file that's Flash-based. And as we all know, there are devices that do not support Flash these days. So this is where you can include the HTML5 output to be sure that anybody on any browser can access it and play it. For storyline, if you want people on mobile devices, tablets, and smartphones to be able to access and play your device, they simply have to download and install the free mobile app for this. It's a little bit different than Adobe Captivate. For that, you have 3 different versions. You must create what's called responsive project, and you go from there. With Storyline, you don't have to worry about that. You simply have to have your audience download and install their mobile app. Then they can view it. Articulate Online, that is a subscription-based content management system, or I guess a learning management system. I've really not investigated that too far. You can get a free trial, but again, that is a subscription-based. Storyline is compatible with a majority of learning management systems, all of the main ones here. SCORM 1.2 is a standard which most LMSs do match. There's also Tin Can and AICC for your reporting and so forth. You could put it on a CD if you want, and you can even create a lot of handouts of the slides from Word, just like in PowerPoint. Okay, I'm not going to publish this right now because that just takes a while and doesn't do a whole lot to see otherwise. Okay, so that is the finished version. Let's come back here and actually go back to, we'll start with Story View here and take a look behind the scenes at what goes into creating that. Okay, so we'll start on slide 1.2. Again, this is that PowerPoint slide that we saw previously that originally had a different background. It's very simple to go in and change the backgrounds there. It's just a couple of clicks here. Here, noticing on the timeline, let's take a look. We're going to just preview this one single slide. And there is a bit of audio here. You notice, well, okay, the first top 2 slides did go away, but then this other here, and so this is a bit of a problem. There's some text here, but I can't really read it because it's covered by the slide, or rather by the images. So I'm going to close the preview, come back here. Working on the timeline, I see here, there's a text box, there's in this course, introduction and so forth. There's all of those that are coming through. But then here are the two pictures. This picture 5.2, you can see it's selected, and picture 4.1. I could have given them different names. I just simply did not do that here. Notice these display all the way to the end of the slide. If I right click here, see show until end. I don't want that to be the case. I want them to end the same time about as these other two pictures. So all I have to do is come over here, drag them back. Done. So now if I test that preview again, that should work, where all four slides will display and then fade away. There they went with that. Okay, don't need to finish that. So good, that worked. Here, it's very easy to add buttons and other controls to the slide. You just come up here, say, choose the Insert tab. Under the controls, these are the interactive controls. Here's the button. You can add that. Buttons by themselves don't do much. You have to add what Storyline calls a trigger for that. In this case, the buttons have a default trigger of just jumping to the next slide. That, or you can choose a specific action that you want for them. That here. Okay, so here we will be taking a look at triggers. Look at this one, and all these are the triggers that are on this specific slide. Here I will edit the trigger, action jump to slide. Many possible actions are available here. Jump to slide shown for this one, change state of, show layer, hide layer, restart course, adjust variable, pause timeline, many. So here, I chose the slide I wanted. There's just a list of all the slides available there. When to do it, when the user clicks, lots of possible triggers, actions, and then what is affected by that. In this case, it's the continue button. So that's one very simple trigger. Here are some others that get a little bit more involved. We've already seen this preview slide in action, where as we click on a specific button over here, the appropriate text object here, text box displays. Now each text object here does have a little button or circle here with the closing. That also has its own trigger as well here. Now notice down here, this is something else on this slide which is a bit new. Storyline can have layers. So every slide has at least one layer. That's called the base layer, shown down here. The top here and everything on the left is on the base layer. Then here, each text caption here with information about the payment history, the amount owed, etc., that's on its own separate layer. So I have complete control over that. The layers have their own properties. Default is to hide other slide layers, so I don't have to worry about that when I am actually working with this for what the user sees. If it clicks on one slide layer, any others are also hidden right away. Okay, so here, again, looking back at the timeline and then the states, here you must click every button below before you continue. Well, we want to know when we have clicked a button. Maybe we'll be interrupted in the middle of this, so I have to go off and come back and have forgotten which ones we have clicked. So we're going to set it the different states so that the user does know when they have clicked a button. Here are the possible states, and this is standard for everything on the web, including links and so forth. Normal state, that's whatever it is. Your hover state is when the mouse is hovering over it. When you are holding the mouse button down, that's what this displays. The visited is something, whatever you want it to display as, and then, of course, disabled. That's going to be slightly grayed. If I want to edit the states here, I want to add a check of some sort or indicator to the visited state. All I have to do is click that, then come up here, Format, And I will choose a different checkbox for this one. That's it. Done with that. So now I've set the states. I need to work it so that, or add the triggers rather, so that the user cannot go beyond this slide until they have clicked all of those checkboxes on the left. That's with a conditional trigger here. There's 2 steps to that. We've created the triggers already, and then we add the conditional trigger that changes the state to visible, which is normal, after all the buttons are clicked. Down here, there is a next button. That is available on all slides here. Where we go to that. Okay, so here are the slide properties, slide navigation controls, previous and next. That's automatically there, which is really handy. I set the trigger here for that next button to change the state of the next button to hidden when the timeline starts. So as soon as this slide displays, the next button is hidden. Then I could change the state rather of the next button to normal when the state of all of those other buttons have switched to visited. So that controls that as far as when the user can go to the next slide. As far as being able to show or hide the content for, let's say, payment history here, payment history there, on this one, notice here for this oval, that also has a trigger to hide this layer when the user clicks. So all that does is hides the payment history when I click here. I can end up with displaying only the buttons on the left and the blank area on the right by doing that. That's one of many, many design decisions. Okay, let's take a look at this character here. Very easy to change the formatting of the character. So here's the expression, the pose, and so forth. For that, triggers are over here. Change state of character to happy when the user clicks. And that's on a specific trigger here with all of these. So over here on these, notice here I've renamed the objects on the timeline. So here's consolidate, and it makes it a little bit easier to identify. Here is the consolidate object, or rectangle in this case. So when I click on that, then I know that's for happy. I could have left them as the rectangle 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a little harder to test and identify when I've reached things correctly with those generic names. Okay. I mentioned variables earlier, and let's come back and take a look at those here. So here, it said on this slide, I was asked to type my name, and there is some additional audio that's saying you cannot continue until you type your name. Well, your name, it's typed into a text entry box here, and that means articulate is aware of what you type. We set a variable to that called learner name, so which will simply set learner name equal to the typed value when the control loses focus, which means when the user clicks off of it. Okay, so it's stored my name in that variable, or think of a variable like a bucket. So then here, we come down to this particular slide, and here's that variable, learner name. So whatever I type on the previous slide is then displayed here. This is a real nice and easy way of customizing and gives it a little bit more personalizing for the users. That's a very simple use of variables. There are other ways as well. This one shows a little bit more involved way. This credit score game here. So here with this, recall that there is a total score down here which was initially set to 0. We had to create a variable for that total score to hold that number of 0 or whatever other number it would be. And then we also created variables for every single one of these boxes here, the create, the diversified credit types, limit credit score, inquiries, etc. And then all of the triggers are added here to this. So, for example, for challenge text, if I'm going to, I'll take a look here, going to adjust a variable, which variable it's borrow, said it's going to equal the assignment number. The value in this case is turned to false. That means that it's already been checked, so, or clicked, so it's going to be ignored in the future if the user clicks with this. Now we also want to subtract 1 from that as we go through. We go through this in detail. This is something, it can get a bit confusing, but in the class itself, we go through it step by step so that everybody is familiar with, because this is a very powerful way of using the variables. Taking a look at the quizzes down here. I'll scroll down to where they're located, and here is one quiz question here. This is just the slide view, so this is what the end user would see, except that there would not be any buttons here. When you're creating the quiz in Storyline, you always have to tell it the correct answer. That's just what's displaying here in preview. That's the end user would not see anything. If I come over to form view, here's where I can create it. I've already chosen the multiple choice type of quiz. Add the question up here, then choose the possible answers, just type them in, whatever it is, and here's where I tell Storyline this is the correct one. Down here are the default responses for correct or incorrect. I could change those if I want to. I can add audio. And if when the user types, or rather chooses something that's incorrect or correct, I have the option of just going to the next slide, or especially if it's incorrect, maybe they need to jump to a different slide for some review. That's up to the designer. For down here, okay, for the drag and drop, shows here what the question is, and then over here what the correct match is. Again, a variety of different possibilities here for setting them up. These are just images. They're PNG files here, the pictures. And then here, these are the text boxes. Take a look at it again here. So here are each of the text boxes here, and then the various images, files. So which image goes with which text box? That's how we set it up here. Very straightforward for that. Okay. So that's a bit of an overview on how to create general training modules in Storyline, but yet there's still another one here. Let's see, let me actually create a new one here. And on this particular case, I want to show how do you actually create software training modules for this, because that's something that's a little bit different here. Going to insert and record the screen. So we always start with recording the screen here, and in this case, all I want to do is to record a very simple explanation of how to change the view of the Windows Explorer here. Right now, we just looking at the list of file names. And in this case, I've chosen to use a folder that is full of images. So I started by to move and resize the frame, click the red button to record, press done when finished. Well, let's take a look here at the options. There's The stop recording key is escape. I can pause, resume by the Alt-D and so forth. I can even take a screenshot. I don't need a microphone because I've decided I don't want to have any audio here. So I'll just click OK and click the red button. Then over here, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so it's waiting for me. I'm going to come up here and click here for preview. And just click on a couple of them. Come over here, choose large icons, or maybe I'd rather come over here. And this is something that should be scripted out ahead of time so you know what you're doing. I'm just doing a few of them simply to show how it works. Okay, then I'm done, so I'm going to press escape. With that one. Storyline saves it as a recording. And here's something that I thought was kind of interesting the first time I saw it, is that it actually saves it as a recording here. Then I have the choice of either putting it as a video on a single slide, which is what we previously had seen, or I can go step-by-step slides. Within the step-by-step, this is, you have 3 choices to make there. There's view, try, or test. The view is strictly, you sit back and watch. There's no user interaction for that. The try mode, that's where there's a prompt for the user. There's captions for them. Then test mode, it's similar to try mode, but there's no captions. You're just presented the screens and the topics, and if the user clicks in the wrong spot, then there is a caption that displays or some information for the user. All of these are set up with defaults to help minimize the amount of work you have to do. You can absolutely add additional content. Ideally, for something like this, I would want to add an introductory slide or 3 describing here is the purpose of this class. For right now, of course, we'll just leave it as is. So I'm going to say step-by-step slides. I'll leave it at view mode. It takes a few seconds to insert. Okay, so here is a slide. And then here, if I want to, I can, I'll just pick a little different background other than white to keep it interesting. So then here, I'll just use a text box. With that, maybe I could create a character, or rather insert a character. And for this one, I will use this lady. Okay, that looks pretty good. Of course, I could have changed that to a caption, which would have the arrows coming to see her, but that, or pointing to her, but that's fine, as is now. So here, recall, all I did was click in various areas and display, but its articulate storyline adds all of these captions here. Let's preview this. And this is all in one scene, so it's going to be the same as previewing the entire project. Okay, so it's waiting for me to say next. And you see the mouse moving. I'm not touching the mouse right now. It detected where I clicked. And was able to read that medium icons, view, and so forth from that. Okay, then if I wanted to come back, I can easily navigate over here if I needed to see a little bit more. Okay, it's going to continue. I can that way because this is set to just view. Here I will click close. I can easily, this is a text box, essentially a caption, and I can easily make changes to something if I wanted to add a little more explanation. I can add additional ones, captions or text boxes, whatever I want. I can change the coloring to make it a little bit more obvious that it's a different intent here. Okay, so that's a bit of an overview of what Storyline can do. It is very user-friendly. It does take a little bit to learn. If you already know PowerPoint, you have a good start, but there's a lot that goes way beyond PowerPoint for presentations that you can create, and it's a very good project. There's also a lot of online resources available, and I talk a little bit about that, where they are and so forth in the class. So I think that's pretty much it, and I guess,
Hi,
Joel, I'll turn
Donna.
it.
Yeah, I just wanted to, I don't know if you saw the one question in the chat box from Stacy. Did you already address that one, or can you? Like,
Sure. The initial
so can you?
steps, see the initial steps of creating a slide, certainly. So that's here for a new slide here. Where do you want to create? What's the source of the slide? If you're just going, say, for a basic layout, if you want some title and content here, assuming not a screen recording, then, gee, this is PowerPoint. Very similar there. And I'm sorry, I know I keep coming back to that. Most instructional designers are very familiar with PowerPoint, but if not, this is a text box. And then just start adding whatever it is you want to add. Here, caption. With that, you can add images and so forth very easily here. I can record audio if I want to, and going on from there. So I hope that answers the question. If not, just please add it again, and I'll be happy to.
Great. All right, Donna. Well, thank you so much. Before we wrap up, we just want to pick a random name here for the recipient of the book.
Okay, so let's say here, just do this between 3 to 5, and that they came up as 3, which is Stacy.
All right. Well, congratulations, Stacy. If you could do me, you're welcome. Thank you for attending.